Alright, we're here to make a tier list of all of the commonly used band instruments. The way I rated this is by hardness. I've played all of these instruments at least once, and if I haven't played it enough, don't know enough about it, I ask people who do know. This is just my opinion on what I think is difficult. Go ahead and talk in the comments, I don't really care. This is my opinion. Okay, starting with flute. Flute's interesting. The flute is like an air vacuum. It just sucks the air out of you. I'm gonna put flute, say very hard. I know, let's go extremely hard. It's so hard to keep consistent air while trying to play fast melodies. Your fingers have to move so quickly. I don't know how good flutists do it. Next up, we have the clarinet. This is something I don't know too much about, but from what I have played and what I've talked to people, I'm just gonna put it in hard. Compared to all of these other instruments down here, this is not the hardest. It's still insanely difficult. I don't know how they move their fingers that fast. And keeping their good embouchure to not squeak, man, I don't know how they do that. I probably should have started with this, the recorder. We all know where this is going. All the way up there. Kidding. We all know where that's going. Recorder is not that hard. That's the instrument everyone starts on. Little 6th grade me had trouble with it, but I bet if I played it right now, I could pretty easily do it. The hardest thing is just getting the air right, especially if it's a really cheap recorder. Some of them that cost like 5, 10 bucks, they're not worth it. They suck. Okay, whoa. Straight up too insane. This is one of the hardest instruments I've ever seen. I have only played an oboe once, I could barely even get a sound out, but I did play bassoon, which is fairly similar, but oboe is probably 5 times harder than bassoon. Your embouchure needs to be so tight, you need to have lips of steel. And plus, some of the notes they need to play, they're so high and you have to move so quickly. This is easily the hardest instrument on this list. Like, props to the oboe players. Saxophone family. The saxophones are the instrument I know the least about. From what I've heard from all the saxophonists I've talked to, it is a pretty difficult instrument. Seeing their sheet music, they have some really fast changes they need to make. There are a whole lot of buttons and fingerings you gotta remember. I've only played alto sax once, and I haven't even touched tenor or bari or soprano. I'm gonna say extremely hard. Just because you gotta know a lot of stuff, and a lot of saxophonists switch between the 3 or 4 saxophones. Okay, bassoon. Ooh, that is easily extremely hard. I played bassoon for almost a full school year till one of my friends dropped it and broke it. This is a hard instrument. The embouchure you need to keep to get a good tone is insane. Plus those reeds cost like $20 and they break so quickly. Having to move your thumbs around that quickly it's so hard. Plus it takes so much air to not squeak. It's easily an extremely hard instrument. Bass clarinet. I've only played bass clarinet once. I'm gonna say very hard. One of my problems with it was it's a very quiet instrument, and to get a good noise you have to use a lot of air. And doing that sacrifices your embouchure, so you have to work on your embouchure. It just kind of builds up and it's a lot of stuff to work on. The air moves through it really quickly, which means it's like a flute, it's like an air vacuum. It's terrible. Alright, now we're starting with the brass. It's going extremely hard. Trumpet is an instrument a lot of people try to pick up as their first instrument because it looks kind of easy, but as you get up there, it is really hard. The mouthpiece is so small and you have to get such high notes, as well as playing really fast. Definitely an extremely hard instrument. Ooh, French horn. French horn is easily the hardest brass instrument. Just like the trumpet, your lips have to be so tight, but something about the French horn makes it so much harder. The way the air moves through and how it backs up, it's so insane. Plus, they have really annoying offbeat pieces. Man, I've only played French horn a few times, but it's an insane instrument. And then you have to learn all about muting with your hands to get tone. Definitely the hardest brass instrument. Alright, trombone. It's a mix between extremely hard and very hard. I'm gonna put it extremely hard just because of the slide. I'm a lot better at the lower brass instruments, but something about trombone is so hard. I'm used to having valves with easy buttons to press. This doesn't have any buttons. You have to remember exactly on the slide where it is to get the perfect tuning. It's like playing violin. I tried violin, I can't do it. I need markers. Ups to trombone players. The one fun thing is they have glisses. Euphonium or baritone. I'm gonna put you in... I'm gonna put you in very hard. No, you're going in hard. I played euphonium a decent amount, and as tricky as it is, it's really not the worst. The only real annoying thing is sometimes pieces will have really high notes or quick runs, but it's a really forgiving instrument in its tuning. It has keys. It's really not the worst. If you all know me, you know I had to include the ophicleide. Oh man, I'm gonna put this in extremely hard. Ophicleide is not a standard band instrument, obviously. It hasn't been used for almost 200 years. But it's still a really hard instrument and I like it. The thing that makes it extremely hard is that the keys are really big. It's really big, which means they take a lot of force to press down and they're hard to move quickly. Another thing is the most unforgiving thing when it comes to tuning. You have to be so precise to get your tuning right. My ophicleide does have a tuning slide on the vocal, but some of them don't, which is even worse. But even if you have the tuning slide pulled all the way out, to exactly where you want it, some notes will be flat and some notes will be sharp, so you have to know exactly how to change your lips to get the right tone. Another thing is the only way to hold it up is to have your hands set like this, and there are two bars sitting across the soft part in between your pointer finger and your thumb. You have to hold all that weight right there. It's a lot easier standing up, but sitting down is such a pain. Extremely hard instrument. Alright, tuba. My favorite instrument. I'm sorry, but I have to put the tuba in just hard. No, tuba's going very hard. Tuba is another air vacuum. The air passes right through it and you need a lot of it, especially when you're playing fast or playing loud. The pistons are really big, which means they take a lot more force to press down, which means you can't play as fast very well. There's also a lot of time in between pressing the button and it changing the note, which means there's a lot of time for you to mess up. So you really have to know how to manage your air and manage your tonguing. Another thing about it is that the intervals in your mouthpiece are really big. Something like trumpet, you could barely adjust your mouth and it'll go to a higher interval. But with tuba, you have to change your mouth drastically. Especially from the lowest two octaves, your mouth really has to go open. And in the lowest octave, your air is gone in a bar. You really need to work on your air management exercises to play this instrument. Alright, percussion. I put percussion not because it's one instrument, but because a lot of percussionists, if you're a good percussionist, you'll learn more than one instrument. A lot of them are required to. And that's what makes this hard. Not only do you have to master holding your mallets and playing fast, you have to master holding your sticks well. You have to master playing the timpani. You have to play the piano. You have to play the triangle, which is the hardest instrument. Plus, a lot of their rhythms can be insane. They're terrible offbeats, or maybe counting 500 measures before you play one note. Their individual instruments are pretty difficult, but the fact that you have to learn a lot of difficult instruments makes it a whole lot worse. That's why it's going in insane. And finally, the baton, the band director's instrument. It's really hard. There's no doubt that being a band director is not easy. Not counting actually teaching, just having to learn the entire song. You have to listen to everyone while keeping a perfect time and watching out for slowing down and speeding up in the piece. You have to remember the tricky parts for your students, or maybe just for the orchestra, and gesture to them when their part's coming up. Plus you have to look cool, which is always hard. Even though it's technically not an instrument, band directors are going extremely hard. And it looks like that's it. This is a new video I'm trying out. I'm not sure if I like it. I'm not sure if people will want to watch. But if you want to watch more stupid videos like this, go ahead and subscribe, leave a like. I'm so close to 1,000 subscribers, so if you could help me out, that would be awesome. Maybe leave a comment. If you disagree, go ahead and disagree. I don't really care, just don't be mean to the other people in the comments. But other than that, have a nice day.